Trade deadline special. It was an active NFL trade deadline. Felt like the NBA or Major League Baseball. Lots of fun, lots of players on the move, including the 49ers who made a move last week and now have sent a running back away. Jeff Wilson traded to the Miami Dolphins, all that, and the trades around the league, how it affects the San Francisco 49ers in the second half of the season. Coming at you right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you as always at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. Being that this is a Wednesday episode, you know what that means. Our guest today, Mr. Nicholas Winkler. Let's bring him on out.
Nicholas Winkler, come on down.
How about that for a trade deadline? NFL coming strong this year. This is something like I've never seen. There's a ton of trades for us to run down here around the NFL, including the 49ers who were active leading up to the deadline and then making a trade deadline day deal as well with Jeff Wilson now on his way out of town to former familiar situation with new head coach of the Dolphins in Mike McDaniel. Wink, what'd you think about the trade deadline?
I mean, obviously, I don't want to see Wilson leave, right? I mean, he's been solid 49er his tenure here, and but that being said, you know, you're getting Elijah Mitchell back soon. We saw what Christian McCaffrey can do in the backfield, and it's a great landing spot for him. You mentioned him going to Miami with McDaniels, like that's good. I wish Wilson the best. I hope he thrives over there.
49ers getting the Miami Dolphins 5th round pick in the 2023 draft, and the Niners are so good at those 5th rounders. There's a starter right there. So massive move by the 49ers to get a starting player with that 5th round pick in the draft. And, you know, obviously they gave up a lot of picks for Christian McCaffrey, one of those being a future 5th. So get a 5th rounder back. So that's nice. And Jeff Wilson, clearly when Elijah Mitchell's back, is not going to be a huge part of, you know, the running back group. And judging by the usage last week, Christian McCaffrey is going to see most of the carries and touches and snaps that the 49ers have at running back, and the rest can go to Elijah Mitchell, who's probably going to, you know, he'll filter in ahead of Jeff Wilson where he would have been on the depth chart. And then they got Ty Davis Price, the rookie. They've got the undrafted rookie in Jordan Mason. And the way I look at this deal, Croc, and by the way, well done, Croc, on figuring out the compensation. We recorded that podcast earlier today before the deadline, and Croc said, yeah, maybe a 5th rounder for Jeff Wilson would make some sense. It's exactly what it was. And here you also get a player in return. So this is the way I look at it. The 49ers for Jeff Wilson got a 5th round pick and Jordan Mason, because they were going to have to waive a player if they didn't trade away Jeff Wilson, because they would have just had too many running backs when Elijah Mitchell came back. So if they waived Jordan Mason, I think he put enough good tape in the preseason out there, and he's a special teams player, that somebody would have picked him up, and he probably would have been playing for the Los Angeles Rams or something like that, right? With what they had going at running back. So I look at this as Jeff Wilson for a 5th round pick and Jordan Mason. Do you see it that way, Croc?
A 5th round pick and Jordan Mason. I'll say this: the compensation is probably what should align with a running back, right? And what they do. So you look at Ty Davis Price, it's still out there. And that was one of the reasons why I brought him up earlier today, which was like, hey, like, you know, at some point you got to get your 3rd round rookie running back on the field. But as long as Jeff Wilson's there, he ain't going to be there. Now, I did say earlier in the preseason, I was like, man, is there a chance? Remember, I said, is there a chance that they let go of Jeff Wilson, because Jordan Mason looks like a Jeff Wilson clone, just the way he runs the ball. Yeah. Looks like a Jeff Wilson clone. Yep. So do you really need Jeff Wilson? And I do think you need Jeff Wilson to get through to this point now, because, again, we've seen a lot of guys struggle early on to grasp the offense of, you know, Kyle Shanahan and they make these mistakes and whatnot. But maybe one of the young guys are ready to step up. It's just kind of tough to see because we ain't seen them really carry the ball, at least with any type of consistency, since the preseason.
Yeah, neither one of them carried the ball last week, and at least Jordan Mason's playing special teams and doing a nice job there in his role. It's a limited role, but he's the personal protector there on the punt team and those types of things. But Ty Davis Price not even getting on the field of special teams, so Mason played more than Ty Davis Price did last week. But it's just an indicator that Elijah Mitchell's probably pretty close. And Wink, you saw the 49ers. And, by the way, if anybody was under a rock and didn't know about the Christian McCaffrey trade, just a reminder there, just to sort of, wrap this all up with the trade deadline. The 49ers, when they acquired Christian McCaffrey, gave the Panthers their second, third, and fourth round picks in the upcoming 2023 draft, and then a fifth rounder in the 2024 draft. Seeing Christian McCaffrey on the field, Wink, obviously, I'm sure that was a whole lot of fun, right? Watching everything he did Sunday in that win against the Rams. How much do you allow somebody else to touch the football, right? At running back. How much does Elijah Mitchell play when he comes back off IR for you?
Yeah, I mean, Croc asked me last week, right? He said, what kind of return do you need from Christian McCaffrey to make this trade seem worth it? And I think we saw it, right? I mean, they were without their number one playmaker in Deebo Samuel, and Christian McCaffrey he looked amazing. He's passing, he's running, he's throwing, he's catching, he's doing everything you need. 2 weeks ago, I was complaining that they don't throw the ball to their running backs at all. 10 receptions by the running backs in this game, 8 by McCaffrey, 2 by Wilson. So this is exactly what we hoped would happen when they got McCaffrey. This is beautiful. It's opening everything up.
Whether it was McCaffrey or not, they should have been throwing the ball to the running backs a little bit more. I think there was something to be gained there. And look, Jeff Wilson's a pretty decent receiver. He's not McCaffrey. Obviously, nobody is. And Elijah Mitchell can catch the ball a little bit too. So I think they can have some fun still here with this. Looking at the
case, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You can't have him out there every snap. You can't have McCaffrey out there. You need to give him a breather here and there. And Elijah Mitchell is a great, number 2 guy to get in there. We saw what he did last year. He looked fantastic. Now he's going to be your backup running back.
I mean, nobody
got a whole lot better.
No, none of the three of us, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners had a problem with the 49ers going into the season with Elijah Mitchell as the number 1.
Right.
So now he's the number 2 because you have a guy who's a clear number 1 over the top of him, right? But I think the most important thing is to keep both these guys healthy by splitting some carries a little bit. Because, again, the running back part of it is less important than the rest. And you need the rest that Christian McCaffrey gives you. And he can't give you the rest if he's going to touch the ball 26 times a game. I think that's unnecessary. So now this is where you have to figure out, okay, do we go dual halfback a lot? Which I like those formations. We talked about that on the Tuesday podcast. Croc and I did. Do you split carries? Do you give it because Kyle likes to it feels like Kyle likes to give it all to one guy, and I would caution him on that, right? Because you need that. We saw the value like you mentioned of Christian McCaffrey.
Both of these guys have broken down too, right? They've been hurt. Both of these guys.
And he can't give you that value if he's not on the field. So they need to do whatever they can. And the least important of all the things he did was just regular old carries, right? And so Elijah Mitchell should take some of those. And Elijah Mitchell can move around and do some things too. So they can have some fun with Elijah Mitchell back there too, even though he's not Christian McCaffrey.
Hey, late in that game, 49ers kind of continued to give Christian McCaffrey the ball when it was even getting away from them. And it's like, dude, you have Jeff Wilson, you have Ty Davis Price, and maybe you don't trust Ty Davis Price, so you scared he fumbled. Well, Christian McCaffrey put the ball on the ground twice. So it can't be because you don't trust a guy to not put the ball on the ground. At some point, just stop running them. Stop running them. That's why the guys get hurt.
Yeah, you're up 3 scores.
Rams, right?
It wouldn't have mattered if Ty Davis Price fumbled anyway, because you're up 3 scores with 4 minutes to go. Who cares if they roll down the field and score again? They got to get an onside kick, score again, and then score again. Give the ball to Ty Davis Price, not even Jeff Wilson. Give the ball to Jordan Mason, Ty Davis Price in that situation. And it's just classic Kyle that, that's where you get a little worried. Like, you can't run this guy, Christian McCaffrey, into the ground, especially even if you're giving him all the carries normally, once the game's in hand, garbage time, you got to give him say, here, Christian McCaffrey, put this baseball cap on your bald spot and sit down for the rest of the game. I was a little bit surprised with that.
I saw that.
Were you guys surprised? Yeah, I had no idea.
I was yelling at the screen, like, why are you giving him the ball? And then the Rams come out and they throw it to Cooper Kupp and he gets hurt. And you're like, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
And it's not the fact okay, a guy gets a bunch of touches, whatever, right? I think Derrick Henry just got a bunch of touches. Their quarterback, rookie Malik Willis, he threw the ball 10 times. So it's not even so much about just the carries. It's about the more he carries the ball, you just risk the injury.
Yep.
Think about when Elijah Mitchell got hurt. I mean, it was 6 carry of the half. It wasn't anything crazy, but he just got hit a certain way. Boom, you lose him for 2 months.
Just takes
So
one hit.
the game is out of hand. Like, if you want to risk that early on, I get it. And you won't hear me say anything about just giving him touches throughout the game. But once you're up multiple scores,
Come on.
all right, we can get the ball to Jeff Wilson, you can get the ball to Ty Davis Price, give the ball to somebody else. Don't just, all right, we're just going to give the ball to Christian McCaffrey just to give him the ball. And then something freakish happened, like what happened with Cooper Kupp. Hopefully he's okay. I haven't heard anything about it. Yeah. But you just leave the door open for that when you don't need to. And again, 49ers, they played terrific in that game on both sides of the ball. I thought the execution was very high level. So I'm not complaining about the game in general or trying to find things to complain about, but it's just like, just get your guy out the game so he doesn't risk a flukish injury, and you end up losing out on a guy who you traded a lot to take you over the top this year. I thought that was a little strange.
That was definitely strange. That was like one of the most obvious. Like, what's going on right here? Don't do this. Don't do this.
Right.
Don't see him get hurt. By the way, Cooper Kupp, Sean McVay said that Cooper Kupp's it's more like a soft tissue injury stuff, not structural damage. So it looks like Cooper Kupp is going to be okay. So that's
good news for them.
Cooper Kupp there. And Croc, as someone who went from just a beautiful head of hair and these flowing locks sticking out of your helmet back in the day, what's your advice to Christian McCaffrey? Because I didn't realize how thin it was getting up top until I saw some photos of him on the sideline there.
Man, as someone that ended up losing all his hair, I spotted that. I said, "Ooh, a little thin there," right? You got to let it go. And that was my first thing. Once I realized, so what happened with me was I had dreads, and I kept having to double and triple up dreads in the front. So at one point, because they kept getting super thin at the root, and I'm just thinking like, well, long hair, it's getting thin, whatever. Well, at one point I had a dread kind of hanging, right, needle thin at the root, but like 4 dreads coming off of that one that I've twisted together. And I was like, I looked at my brother, like, dang, my brother's hella bald. I think I'm going bald. And I just let it go. And that was hard. I had my hair for 8-9 years. It had got down to here. I loved my hair. And it was hard, but it was easy because I told myself, I'm not going to go out looking like Floyd Mayweather's dad. I'm not doing that. I'm just going to let go when it's time. So Christian McCaffrey, it's time, bro. Let it go.
I kind of miss that, man. Like Larry David, right? How he just rocks the cul-de-sac. I kind of miss how guys used to rock that too.
Well, I think white guys
got to come back.
White guys are more inclined to just rock it with, okay, I'm going bald, whatever. I'm just going to rock it, have a little comb over. Black guys, I don't think we could do that. It starts to look a little funny. You look like, what's the guy this the big one? You start looking like that, and it starts looking real crazy. Black guys, we for sure got to shave it off. Like look at Scott Van Pelt. Scott Van Pelt, he looks good, bald head.
He looks good.
Yeah. Like everyone shaves it off. I feel like we got to bring it back. We got to bring back the cul-de-sac. Like the dad from Coming to America, right? Didn't he have that going on?
Yeah. See, throwback. I think throwback black guys, they used to do that.
Yeah.
Nah, we're off that.
Oh, dude, bring it back. I see.
It looks crazy.
Everything
if I
goes
grew
in
my hair
cycles.
out right now, it looks crazy, bro.
Really?
Even right now,
really
you kind of
you
can see it like it starts to look crazy.
All
right. No cul-de-sac for Crocky. We'll see what Christian McCaffrey decides to do when that thing develops. But can't wait to see how Kyle Shanahan's offense develops going forward. Let's talk more about the trade deadline. I want to talk about the Miami Dolphins side of this thing. And by the way, Miami Dolphins making another move as well. The 49ers draft picks the Dolphins have gotten have been spent. Let's go look at what the Dolphins got in the trade that the 49ers gave them all those picks to move up in the draft and eventually land Trey Lance in the 2021 NFL draft. Next. Did you know that over the holidays, property crimes like burglaries and package thefts spike nationally? That's why our friends at Simply Safe Home Security are offering 50% off their award-winning security system so that more families can feel safe and secure this holiday season. Order your Simply Safe system for half off today and enjoy advanced security and greater peace of mind this holiday season. Here's why you'll love it. First of all, crystal clear HD live stream of your security cameras. The wide array of high-tech sensors. You can put it on any door or window in your home, get any number of cameras to suit exactly your needs, exactly how you want to have your home really safely monitored at all times. The 24/7 monitoring agents are always standing by, professionally ready to have your back, whether you're talking about just tech support staff or that monitoring that can contact first responders, contact the police, contact whoever they need to contact, whether they can get a hold of you or not, and make take the proper steps to protect your home. Simply Safe includes 24/7 professional monitoring agents that use Fast Protect technology exclusively from Simply Safe. So don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system we recommend. Get 50% off any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/lockedon. This is their biggest discount of the year, so do not wait. That's simplysafe.com/lockedon NFL. There's no safe like Simply Safe. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. Tons about the trade deadline, I'm sure, from the games that matter as well the most. And the biggest stories in sports go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. So the Miami Dolphins pairing now, like back together again. It's such a good pairing, right? Mostert and Wilson. We're going to see the 1 and the 2. We know that Mostert's got the speed, the big play guy. You can bring in Jeff Wilson. He can give you some tough yards. He runs so hard. He can catch the ball in the backfield as well. And the Miami Dolphins, so Mike McDaniel pairing those two running backs together again, but they also made a move for an impact pass rusher, picking up Bradley Chubb from the Denver Broncos, and they used the pick they got from the San Francisco 49ers because the Miami Dolphins don't have their own first-round pick anymore because the ownership got dinged there, and everything that happened off the field, they got one of their first-round picks taken away because they had 2 coming in. Now they got 0 first-round picks in the 2023 draft. It's on its way to the Denver Broncos for Bradley Chubb. So now looking at what happened with the 49ers and trading all those picks to the Miami Dolphins have now used them all. And so what does that look like? Well, I'll tell you what it looks like. The Miami Dolphins, remember the day of the trade when the Niners moved up to number 3, the Dolphins then swung a deal with the Philadelphia Eagles. They went from 12 back up to 6. I didn't like that move at the time. I thought the value was being in the top 12 of that draft. And so I felt like the Miami Dolphins would have been better just staying put, and they gave up too much value again from that they had just gained from moving all the way back, right, from 3 to number 12 with the 49ers. So they ended up trading their own first from the next year to go up to 6 with the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Philadelphia Eagles made out pretty well, but I don't think Miami's feeling bad about what they did either because they ended up with Jalen Waddle. So Miami now, after all is said and done, they had Jalen Waddle in the 2021 draft at number 6 overall. Last year, they used the 49ers number 29 pick to trade for Tyreek Hill, and now they used this year's first-round pick from the 49ers to get Bradley Chubb. So they've ended up with Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Bradley Chubb. 3 pretty darn impact players for that Miami Dolphins team now, thanks to the 49ers moving up for Trey Lance. And if they didn't move up to number 6, I don't know who they would have taken at 12. I don't know who the 49ers would have taken at 12. In fact, I think I do know. It probably would have been Mac Jones, right, for the 49ers. Mm-hmm. But do you guys know who ended up going number 12? Because the pick went from Miami to
Micah
Philly.
Parsons.
Yeah, and then Philly.
Or Micah Parsons.
Philly ended up trading up just a couple picks to get Devontae Smith, and they traded with the Cowboys. And so the Cowboys ended up taking who right now has been the best player out of that 2021 draft pick, out of that draft, and they picked Micah Parsons at number 12, where the 49ers originally were. So kind of crazy how
Parsons, Jamar Chase, both pretty.
Yeah. Good call.
Elite.
Yeah.
Oh, and those corners. Patrick Surtain.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to say he's, Parsons, but Surtain has been
he's
pretty
good.
Damn good.
He shut down some big name wide receivers this year.
What? And they're saying, hey, go play man on this guy. He caused fits against the 49ers. With Brandon Ayuk had to go man up against him. That was tough.
Justin Jefferson, too, shut him down. Like, he's done a lot of good work.
Devontae Adams. It went back and forth, but with the amount of targets Devontae Adams got, overall, you look at Adams' numbers, it looked really good in favor of Adams. But their matchups, really good. I mean, it was back and forth.
What do you think? The Miami Dolphins win that trade with the 49ers?
Yeah.
Right now,
I was asked this question by Matt Williamson on the Peacock and Williamson show a couple weeks ago because we were looking at the second-year quarterbacks, and none of them are good yet. Like, we don't know what Trey Lance is going to end up being. He's the most incomplete because, like, we just have no idea. He's played the least. But
Right.
Zach Wilson looked terrible last week. Even,
Ooh.
I mean, the guy who
Trevor
we're
Lawrence.
talking about, Trevor Lawrence being generational. He didn't look good last week either. The best one in the last couple of weeks has been Justin Fields, and people were calling him Bustin' Fields earlier on in the season and thought he was complete.
I never heard that one. I like
It's
that.
like, man, I don't know if any of the quarterbacks are going to be any good from that class. Now we're talking about the best players in Micah Parsons and Patrick Surtain, and then a couple of wide receivers.
It's almost easier to hit on those guys, but you are more likely to hit on one of those skill position players than you are on the quarterback, right? Just in general. So that's why some people think like, man, giving up a lot of draft capital is crazy. Now, if the quarterback hits, then great, but it's such a crapshoot, and that's the risk when going out and just being like, all right, we want to give up a lot for this quarterback. I would say that what the NFL needs to do is go back to, I don't know, when I was a kid, they had this thing called NFL Europe. And NFL Europe was like this it was like a development league. Like the players had a patch of the team or organization that they were a part of. And I really feel like if the NFL had a legit farm system to help develop quarterbacks and not have to throw them in, I think that the hit rate would be much better. Much better. The issue right now is Trevor Lawrence, go be the savior of this organization.
Yep.
Right? Like 21 years old, go be the savior.
Team.
Justin Fields, go be the savior of Chicago. Like, come on, Chicago's terrible. Zach Wilson, go be the savior of New York. And you're putting them in these situations where everything is so sped up, there's so much pressure on them, and they don't know what the hell they're doing. They barely know how to prepare. It's a tough situation for those guys. And then they just need the playing reps of seeing it. But even if they went to the NFL Europe, yeah, it's not NFL, but I think it's a step above college. And you get the NFL coaching, you get the NFL play calling, and it's a legit farm system for these guys. I wish they had something in place and just say, look, you are not playing this year in the NFL.
Yeah.
But when you are ready, we'll call you up. But we're not going to put that pressure on you. You go ahead, go to this development league, learn how to be a leader, learn the plays, learn at your pace. Learn our system with some of our coaches that we have in that, and then go about it that way. Kind of like basketball. And then basketball ends up having the NBA, they got the two-way players in the G League or whatever. Like, the hit rate on quarterbacks would be so much better. But right now, it's almost impossible. Listen to guys like Quincy Avery. Quincy Avery has tweeted this out. And he has several quarterbacks right now that's in the NFL. But his thing was, no quarterback should play right away. Like, that's his thing. No quarterback. They are not ready. And I saw it with Geno Smith. Geno Smith was not ready when he was young. You look at Geno Smith now, I think he would have had this type of opportunity much earlier, if not for the failures of coming in and playing right away and having to lead New York. So I think all these guys were saying, oh man, none of these quarterbacks are good. But man, they are thrust into an almost impossible situation because it's just so hard. Even the guys that have a ton of talent, like a Herbert, right? Herbert ain't done nothing, but they crown him like he's this top 5 quarterback, but he still doesn't know how to win. He turns the ball over consistently at the wrong times. We see the splash plays, we see the high upside, but it's not resulting in W's. 49ers played them in the next game. We'll get to see them live. But man, they need a development league, and I think you won't see 5 quarterbacks going to the top 15, and then they just all look like, they can't play. These dudes can play, man. They just need time. You don't got time now. It's a microwave league. Guys got to hit the ground running right now, and if they don't, they're busting Fields, and that's crazy.
Right. That's insane. The Bears giving Justin Fields a wide receiver, trading for Chase Claypool today, which was an interesting one. After yesterday, they traded away Roquan Smith, so they're adding and subtracting there, but obviously they're trying to get. Why didn't they do that deal before the? By the way, shout out to my guy Matt Williamson. He called this preseason. He said, I'm looking at the Steelers and the Bears. They should work out a trade right now. Roquan Smith for Chase Claypool. It was actually Roquan Smith for Chase Claypool and who's the linebacker that they drafted out of Michigan a couple years ago? Shorter guy, fast, but he's been kind of
Devin.
Yes.
I can't think of their last name.
Were they both Devins?
Devin Bush. Devin Bush,
yeah, because one went to the Bucks, and then the Steelers took Devin Bush, and he's been not great for the Steelers. So his idea was, Devin Bush and Chase Claypool to the Bears for Roquan Smith. And I would have liked that better for both teams. That would have helped the Steelers this year, and it would have helped Justin Fields have a better receiver the whole season instead of getting a guy halfway through the year who only has 1 year left on his contract. And the Bears, when they traded away Roquan Smith, they got a second-round pick from the Ravens, but they actually gave up their own second-round pick to the Steelers for Chase Claypool. So they're going to drop 20 spots in the second round, even with that deal. So shout out to Williams. You saw that one coming.
Real quick, Peacock, one more example of how it could really be beneficial, maybe to play, but just how these guys need time, right? If you're going to thrust them into this role, you cannot judge them in the first 2 years. I'm not even judging these guys. Right. They need 3 years. And you look at a guy by the name of Jalen Hurts. I thought he was a running back coming out of college. I was like, this guy can't throw the football.
Yeah, right.
And you look at Jalen Hurts now, he is just consistently getting better, right? He's leading the team right now, undefeated. He's figuring out how he has to win. And I still don't think we're seeing the finished product of him. But if you would have judged him off of his rookie year when he came in, and there was a couple games where he threw for a bunch of yards, but it was nothing like great. And then he got benched for Nate Sudfeld. Some people thought they were tanking. Well, it was like, no, he was just playing like trash. And then last year, he played the whole year. They went to the playoffs, and even then people were like, oh, he's not good. They need to move on from him. Yep. I'm like, dude, give this guy a chance. And then you see him this year, it works. Look at Josh Allen. Again, a lot of people look at him. Look at Dak Prescott. There are a lot of examples of these quarterbacks where if you just look at the first 3 years, Dax looks different, but only because, well, I got drafted. I got the best offensive line in the league, by far. Best offensive line. I got Dez Bryant, I'm throwing the ball up to. I got Jason Witten, I'm leaning on Zeke. The moment he lost Dez Bryant, lost Zeke and Witten, what did it look like? And the O-line started to have some injuries. Oh, he was terrible. Cowboy fans were like, get rid of him. We don't want him anymore. Like my brother and my homies. I'm like, well, dang, y'all giving up on him like that? But now you look at Dak, and he's a good quarterback. He's good. He's efficient. He's accurate. That was not the Dak over the first 3 years. There were a lot of inconsistencies. There's too much of a rush on these guys to be great right now, even if they have a good team around them. It's too much of a rush. So I can't judge any of these guys right now. Yeah, things look weird. Yeah, maybe you could say, Mac Jones, he might be a little limited, but I still think that the final product of these guys is rushed. It's so rushed.
I was just looking at the 2013 draft. That was when Geno Smith was selected. And Geno Smith's like in the prime of his career, around late 20s and really early 30s now is pretty much the prime. It's basically a decade longer than the prime is for a running back, right, to play quarterback. And so he's kind of in his prime years right now. And you look at his draft class and you look at some of the players that were drafted that year and how old some of the players feel. And like Giovanni Bernard, I think is the only running back that's still playing. He was I think he was the first running back selected.
Is he even playing?
That year. And I think he's on a roster now, but he's not really playing.
I feel like is he on Tampa? I feel like
he was on Tampa last year. Yeah.
And then you got Le'Veon Bell, who was really good, but he's been done for a few years now. How about Eddie Lacy? Doesn't Eddie Lacy seem like he's 45 years old?
Wow. Yeah.
Monty Ball.
So long ago.
You guys remember Monty Ball from Wisconsin?
I do think though that there's a scenario where Geno Smith, you see this version of him if he had this same type of opportunity 6 years ago.
If he would have,
and maybe it just took sitting behind Russell Wilson, and as everybody, come on, man, everybody knows, he's a little corny, cool, whatever. But one thing you can't take away from Russell Wilson is his preparation, right? His preparation to the game, super high level, and how and sitting behind that for a couple years and just seeing that every single day in meetings, talking through that, I think that makes you a better quarterback. I think that really helped Geno Smith.
Right? I mean, we talked about before we got on the air about you, Croc, and how you went to the wrong system at one point, right? And you were like, oh, I'm playing the wrong position. It's like Geno Smith has just been maybe in the wrong spot, right? And he finally found that system that clicks in his head where he's like, this is how I play. This is what I needed this whole time. And I think a lot of guys that get drafted right out of college, they come into a system and it's just like, I don't know what this is. This doesn't make any sense to me. This is like nothing I've ever done before. Plus, these guys that are getting drafted early are getting drafted to bad football teams. There's a reason they're drafting in the front part of the draft, right? And so he's surrounded by guys that have lost. They're a losing culture. I immediately go to like the Lions, and it's like you get drafted to a team like that or traded to a team like that, and you're immediately like, oh, I'm supposed to help this team. All right, good luck.
And then the staff that drafts you gets fired, so now you have a new coach. Now you're learning a new system, and your second year.
How many examples of that do we have too? Right? Even I just named Justin Herbert.
Over. Yeah.
Justin Herbert was drafted by Anthony Lynn and those guys. They got
You're right.
fired that year. Then you got a whole new coaching staff that comes in. We saw with Jalen Hurts, right? Jalen Hurts got drafted by one staff. Those guys got fired. Next thing you know, he has a whole new staff. And you see that all the time. Trevor Lawrence.
Tua now we're starting to see play really good because now he's got Waddle and Tyreek, right? And a new coach.
They were calling him left-handed Jimmy G. Now I don't think Jimmy G's bad, but they meant it in an insult type way, right? Like it wasn't a positive with them calling him like left-handed Jimmy G.
He's not a top 5 dude, basically, is what they're trying to say.
Top 5 pick. That's what he was.
Yeah. By the way, 2013 49ers drafted a running back. Do you guys remember who that was?
2013?
Yeah.
Barlow?
No. Barlow,
maybe a little bit farther back. Was it Hyde?
Kendall Hunter?
Nope. I'll give you a hint. He never played.
Lattimore.
Yep.
Yeah, in the 4th round.
Team ACL.
Yeah.
Team ACL. How about this one? So a lot of people, when Mac Jones got benched, were saying, hey, the 49ers should just go trade for Mac Jones and unite Kyle Shanahan with the quarterback he really wanted, right? And so what do you guys think? Looking back at what the Miami Dolphins have done, where would the 49ers be right now if they drafted Mac Jones at 12, then they traded last year's first-round pick for Tyreek Hill, and then traded this first-round pick for Bradley Chubb? Mac Jones.
I wouldn't have Christian McCaffrey, so I'm out.
I remember asking the question immediately following the draft. 49ers drafted. I should go find the tweet because it was 100%. I was like, hey, now that we've seen the draft go by, do you think the 49ers, now that we saw that Mac Jones was there at 12, do you think the 49ers were better off not trading up and drafting Mac Jones at 12 and keeping the other 2 first rounders? 100% 49ers fans were like, no, we like Trey Lance.
Well, me too. I mean, if you're going to take it, well, again, it's not taking a swing. I just believe in upside. I'm just a big upside person.
Me too.
And I'm willing to see that upside develop. And, I'm trying to invest in this apparel company, right? And it's like, I don't expect to see any type of return right away, but I hope that if I do this, hey man, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, 5 years from now, if I go hard enough and I promote it the right way, this is a multi-million-dollar type business. And it's like, hey, I struck gold, no pun intended. So with Trey Lance, man, I hate that he got hurt this year because I feel like he just needed this year. But man, I mean, I thought it was a long-term play. So hey, heal up, Trey, and can't wait to see him next year. But no, I'm not. I don't have any like buyer's remorse. I think if that's what you're asking about.
It was more about it was more about the idea of, and like it looks really bad now. If the 49ers really might have traded up to 3 to get Mac Jones, like that would have been like, what the hell? Like whoever in the meeting suggested that, right, in the pre-draft meetings, that guy needs to be fired. Or
they'll say
the personnel side of things, like you were going to trade up to number 3 for Mac Jones,
yeah,
right? Which it seemed insane to me at the time too. But when you look back now, I was like, really, was that one of the options? You were going to do that for Mac Jones, who ended up being there at number 12 anyway. But that was kind of my thing. It was like, because a lot of people thought Mac Jones was going to go a lot earlier, and the fact that he wasn't, that was sort of my question at the time. It was like, okay, man, Mac Jones lasted to 12. Would the 49ers been better off if they didn't make the trade and just took Jones at 12? They had 2 more first round picks.
Justin Fields was more the one to me. If you're like, hey, you could have moved up 2 spots,
yeah,
and got Justin Fields because he's sitting there, or trade up to 3 and draft Lance, and I'd be like, move up 2 spots and get, you probably would have just gave up maybe 1 future first, maybe not even. I don't know, not much.
Even if you were willing to go up, maybe you knew you had to go up to say 5 instead or something, and you had to give up 1 future first to get in front of Carolina and Denver, because you thought they might have drafted a quarterback, even though now we know they didn't. I don't know if they'd have been good enough to hold their water all the way to maybe making sending just a 3rd round pick to go up a couple spots and drafting Fields there. But clearly the Niners didn't like Fields over Jones anyway. But
I mean, hopefully 3 years from now, we're looking back and we're saying we're not even questioning it, right? Because Trey Lance has proven.
And we don't know how any of these quarterbacks are going to turn out still. Croc's talked about it. I mean, Josh Allen's the most famous one. We know about what it was, like for Jalen Hurts, and we're actually starting to see the usage for Fields start to look a lot more like Hurts, and it's helped his development a lot the last couple of weeks. He's looked a lot better, and leaning on his legs while he figures things out with the rest of his game. getting him some weapons. Chase Claypool now, that'll really help because they've just got dudes off the street at wide receiver. Like it's crazy how you're trying to develop this first round quarterback and you have the worst wide receiver group in the league. Like just literally the number 2 starting wide receiver aside from Mooney, Equanimeous St. Brown. Nobody wanted him. They're talking about how bad the Packers wide receiver group is. Equanimeous St. Brown was like the 7th guy on that. Like he wasn't even good enough to make that roster, and he's starting.
Dante Pettis
is
on the Bears. It's
just really hard with all these guys to know how they're going to turn out, and none of them have shown enough signs to really believe that they are going to be dudes. So honestly, in year 3 next year, when Trey Lance is healthy, he doesn't even have to do that much to look better than what we've seen from all these guys yet.
Yeah,
I think that's what people were banking on early on with Trey Lance, where it's like, hey, he don't have to do a whole lot. Until he did, right? Until week 1, where it's like you have the fumble, then he missed a throw, then you have a tsunami. Now it's like, hey, he kind of got to overcome a lot of adversity that people weren't expecting. Yeah. And then obviously he got hurt the next game. So that's tough.
Right.
By the way, Justin Fields has beaten Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Davis Mills, and he has Zach Wilson on the schedule later in the year. They don't play the Jaguars, though. So Justin Fields has a chance to beat all those quarterbacks except for the number 1 overall pick.
With the worst supporting cast.
Yes.
Right. Now, he did have the best supporting cast against the 49ers. And that was the tsunami and the
good Lord above. He had God-level supporting cast.
I got you, Justin. I got you.
All right. Good stuff. Wink, thanks for joining us here as always.
Yeah, hey, Wink Switch Watch, 3 punts, 3 inside the 20. He's the man. Dominating right now is Mitch Wishnowski with the knuckle punts. Thanks to everybody for making Locked On 49ers your first listen. Drop a comment. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe, tell a friend about Locked On 49ers, and let us know what you thought was the biggest move made on the trade deadline, how much better the 49ers are now, or worse if you think so, now after the trade deadline has come and gone. Croc and I back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers. See ya.